Okay, so we are trying this again. Ubuntu Party USA Council of Elders, meeting number 6 on November 20th, 2014. Okay, let's see if we can get Carla on here. Okay, try to get George on here. What the heck? Okay.
Yes, well, I think everybody else is still on the other call.
Oh boy. Okay, so did this come as a new invite to you?
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought I duplicated this, and I see, looking on my Google Plus page, there's yet another option to start another one, which I am not going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody will meet up right here. I just sent an invitation out to all the circles. I mean, to our single circle, and trying to collect some of the people that were on the other line. I invited Carla. I need to invite David to this one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'll send another invite out to Sperry. Hey, Jess, how are you? Welcome.
Hi, I'm well, thank you.
Awesome. I'm glad that you found your way. Having a little bit of a technical issue tonight, but it looks like it's all coming together.
Good.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, here we are. Hello, Jessie. Let's see. Is my mic on? Yeah. No, it appears to be.
What'd you say?
I said hi, and then I was talking to myself about whether my mic was on or not. Lucas.
Oh, so great to see everybody. Oh my God. I've been having such a hassle here on my computer. Hello. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, cool. All right, so let's just jump right into this. So, okay, so some great news for Michael this week. Two things is he now has the website set up. I'm going to pull up so that you guys can see the screen. He's got the main Ubuntu website set up so that worldwide all coordinators can go there and kind of plug in, put in their information. So I'll just pull this up so that you guys can see. Okay. So, my cursor. Yeah. Okay, I think so.
Looks good.
Yeah. All right. So, so yeah, he's got this set up now that people can go in there, put in their country, their name, email address, Skype address, cell number, and their address, and to determine how they're involved. He wants to know if they're hosting a website with the Ubuntu information logo, or whether somebody started a Facebook page or Facebook group, or if there's another online activity or presence where they're using the logo and info, or whether you are already an existing coordinator, or whether you want to start an Ubuntu party, or if you would like to become a coordinator or a representative. Okay, then you can check off. And then he's declaration. And this is great because I think this is kind of what we were looking for. I actually went ahead and pinned it to the top of the page of our council group. So this would be a good kind of guide just for everybody plugging into the USA Party page. That this is simply, we're just asking that they abide by this. The declaration reads, I am a living, breathing human being, and I hereby declare that I honor the founding philosophies that make up the core essence of contributionism as presented by the Ubuntu Liberation Movement, its founding documents, and as outlined in the book Ubuntu Contributionism, a Blueprint for Humanity. I declare that I align myself with the contribution philosophy, and I will always represent these principles in the highest truth, honor, and integrity, and present them without distortion or dilution to the best of my ability and for the greatest good of those in my community and our world called planet Earth. I will share my knowledge and become a seed of consciousness to spread the message of contributionism as widely as I can. I will conduct myself honorably at all times and promote unity and abundant humans amongst humans, amongst humanity. I will not do anything to willingly undermine the Ubuntu movement. This declaration without any restrictions or omission, and so it is. And then you can we can hit, and do is just direct everybody right over and get plugged that way. Coordinate with Michael about getting some kind of access to a database. We can see everybody in our country. Hey, welcome. I can see your microphone right now.
Good night, babe. I love you. See you in the morning.
Who just said goodbye? There might be a little bit of a delay on here. I'm not sure. So yeah, I want to welcome everybody. Michael's new portal on the main Ubuntu page, so that new coordinators can plug right in an organized way. And what I did is I set up at the top of our page, and I'll show you. The top of our integrity and honor. And here's the link. So people who want to get involved through our portal can just click right there, which should then take them, let's just check, main page. And this is really what Michael's wanted, is a system set up so that, like, you know, he can vouch for people getting involved so that it doesn't turn into a crazy, you know, hairy mess of people running around claiming to do this and overlapping. So it'll really help with the coordination. And I just want to open this up to discussion. Does anybody have any thoughts on the portal, comments, questions?
I did it today and ended up thinking it was a really smart idea, just as a basic precaution to kind of wean out people who are using the logos and using some of the pictures and things associated with the group without actually being a part of the Ubuntu organization.
Yeah, I think it'll work very well. Anybody else before we move on to our next point? I know we got kind of off to a late start here, so I want to kind of catch it up. The other bit of news, I'm sure some of you heard, is that Ubuntu Party UK is on the ballot for the next elections, so that's huge. I don't know what the specific requirements are for getting on the ballot in the UK, but those guys pulled it off, and we definitely want to follow their example. And Jess, have you given some thought to our invitation last week? I know you've expressed some interest, but I kind of like asked you, like, do you really want to like take this responsibility, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I started researching it for several hours today and have a lot of different kinds of information to share with you guys, so I can give you kind of a list and you can tell me where you think it would be best to focus on. Does that sound good?
Beautiful, thank you.
Okay, well, the first is a political action committee, the official definition by U.S. law, and then as it also relates to the Ubuntu Council of Elders and all Ubuntu volunteers. And I also have a lot of information about the electoral college process and registering at the local and state and national level. Some laws about distributing campaign materials, ideas about how to gain support and get the word out that our party exists in general, laws that have to do with how to allocate funding to the political party and how to think about that in terms of the fundraising platforms that we're choosing and how to keep track of that all. So that's kind of where I'm at with it right now.
Very cool. Welcome, Joseph.
Hello, how are you doing?
Great interview earlier. We had a lot of fun, didn't we?
Oh yeah, it was kind of raw.
Yeah. So anybody listening in, on Thursdays before we do the Hangouts, I've got this law show called Evolve Quest, and we've got like 31 episodes. And our 31st tonight was Joseph Sapp, who came on, and the name of the show is Looking Through the Legal, or rather, Through the Legal Looking Glass, Confessions of an Ex-Bar Attorney. So that was really fun. You guys might want to check that out. But yeah, Jess had just mentioned she's been, she's taken on the mantle to help guide the process of getting registered as a political party, and she had mentioned the PAC, and you had brought that up last week. And since you are knowledgeable about the process, how can we plug you guys in together and maybe form an action committee within our group of council of elders to really focus on those steps that we've got to take to actually make it official?
Actually, that was a good idea, and it's going to take more than one person. One of the biggest things that you're dealing with, especially as a federal PAC, is the incredible amount of paperwork. You must file this paperwork, and if you miss, you get into trouble, and I've mentioned that before. But also, every state that you operate in, you have to go by there. We dealt with the dual sovereignty issue a little bit tonight, and that's where it's going to get really tricky, is what states are we going to work in, what stands the best opportunity to legitimate it as a party platform. There's a number of people that I know that say Ubuntu is a movement, but when you look at Michael Tellinger's, he's pretty specific that there's a very political component to this. And while it is a lifestyle movement and it is a belief system, we cannot lose sight of the fact that we need legitimacy. The plan I had suggested was 20 local candidates for 20 local offices in every county and every state in the next election cycle. If we can't do that, I would like to see where the demographics indicate a bulge of support for Ubuntu, and let's focus our efforts there, like New Jersey perhaps, or wherever we have a lot of people that are both active and more than just mouth. It's real easy to say that you're something, but it's a different thing to actually do it. I don't think that we would have much luck in a state full of large metropolitan areas like New York, for instance, or something like that. But when you look at the more rural states, it's easier to get in, it's easier to make a difference, and it's easier to make a base. Because to be a legitimate political party on the national level, you must have registered at least 1% of the voters. And that's going to be difficult under any circumstances, because registering voters is a lot more than just clicking a like button on a social website. It's going to require boots on the ground. We are going to need a political action party. I'm really glad somebody enthusiastic with the dream is wanting to do this, because as you grow older and more experienced, you'll find that your services are more valuable. And unfortunately, we're not in a moneyless society yet, and valuable skills, very, very valuable skills. But I would say that we do need to crystallize a plan of action to gain some legitimacy. And I think you were talking about the form that you had to fill out. I filled it out too the other day. I'm not so much wearing Ubuntu on my sleeve as I am where it counts. And I think that that's real important too. We really need to do something to get the tire kickers on down the road, because we're at a turning point. UK, like you said, they made it. I'd like to see us get Ubuntu on the ballot in at least one state in the next election cycle, if not more. And I yield the floor.
And we open it up to anybody else, questions, comments?
Yeah, I definitely agree. With everything I learned today, there are just so many laws to comply with, especially financially. There's a 177-page document that pretty much before you even start this process, you have to get pretty comfortable with. And yeah, it's just going to take a lot more than one or two or three people just to get started in that area. And if we're thinking about something like the national elections 2 years from now, you have to get a certain number of signatures by a certain amount of time, a certain number of days before the election, and spend a certain amount of money, and have those signatures be distributed across certain congressional districts. And it's just important for everyone to understand just the level of understanding that you need to get to just to be able to comply with the regulations. And like Joseph said, it seems like you can get in trouble if you don't. So.
Yeah, it seems like they raised the bar pretty high. You know, like the bar to entry is probably high for a reason.
Yeah, they make it complicated on purpose for sure.
Well,
but now the super PAC,
yeah.
well, the super PAC is different now. A standard political action committee where you've got to dole out certain amounts and you have these restrictions. You know, the super PAC would allow us to do issue-based, and I said it last week. We can have candidates that are so identified with the issues that, you know, a clean sweep government is as good as saying John Smith. And that's something to look at, because I believe that the super PACs, number one, I hate to use the word launder with money behind it, but so let's say wash coinage. It's a good way to wash coinage into issues that legally that we would want to promote. And as a young party, perhaps the promotion of issues rather than candidates would be our best bet. That allows us to align with whoever on either side of the aisle agrees with our philosophy. And I yield.
What would be the three main platform issues for Ubuntu, do you guys think? Like, what jumped out to you about the Ubuntu movement that got you invested?
I would say the local self-sufficiency and contributism, because I've tried to start various outposts like that. You've seen my stuff, of self-sufficient, self-governing communities that look out after each other. You know, a true neighborhood community again. And I think that that's for me, that's what I like.
Mm.
I don't know if everybody has watched the video, and it's actually embedded in Michael's 3-hour presentation at the ESETI Ranch back in September on YouTube, and it's probably out there separately, but I haven't found it. But it was a spot they did in South Africa during the elections in May. And Michael actually points out in the video that, you know, here we're attacking the banks, and here we're attacking big ag, and here we're attacking big pharma, and so on. So I don't know if we have to come out attacking everybody, but that's kind of the example he set. You know, just making the point that these, you know, heavily funded and money-driven institutions are not serving the interests of the people. They're serving the interests of the banksters. So there's certainly plenty to talk about. I mean, I before I became involved with Ubuntu contributionism, I liked the Green Party. Well, the Green Party goes so far and no farther. You know, because I don't know why. I mean, maybe they feel that it's a lost cause or something, or they can't get the votes. But, you know, the thing that I like about contributionism, you know, and the Ubuntu Party and the way Michael presented it in South Africa is, you know, folks, these are the real issues, and this is what really needs to be said and done about them. And we're not going to pull any punches, and we're not going to mince any words. So that's what I want to say. Thank you.
I agree. I was libertarian before I found Ubuntu, actually, and because I'm very fiscally conservative but socially liberal, and I truly believe in the self-sufficiency part and the fact that, you know, how much is enough for any one man? After you've got enough for yourself, your children, and your children's children, how about giving some back? And I think positive issue ads would go further if we're not fielding a candidate, because you want people to like you. You know, nobody likes an attack dog because everybody's afraid that they'll be attacked. but you know, you get a good jingle going and people sing your song and you got a good pithy message that makes people feel good, it gives you an edge. And we're not in South Africa, and South Africa's got some problems that make attack ads necessary, I think. But not here. But anyway, I'm sorry, I don't want to take up. This is an example of dominant personalities in training a group, which is what I had talked about earlier in some stuff, and it's what I want to try to not do, and it's hard with my training. But other people should also be aware of it. It's not a pie-in-the-sky thing. But anyway, enough of that.
And I think anybody can use the camera if you know, you have something to say next, and that way we know to yield to you directly. I would like to share my thoughts for 3 possible platforms. I like the idea of not focusing on a candidate because it really emphasizes the fact that Ubuntu is community-driven, that it's not a personality cult, that there's no charismatic leader, but you know, the power is in people united. So the 3 things that jump out to me, and let me preface this by saying that without being misunderstood or misconstrued as being negative, I want to share my belief that I do believe that it is a powerful catalyst to bring people together for a good cause when you have a common enemy, okay? And I say that with a caveat, okay, because I'm not interested in pointing to an individual and saying, that's our enemy. I'm not interested in even pointing to a category of group of people like the banksters, they're our enemy. I think that we could successfully rally around the idea of corporate personhood as being the epicenter of institutional exploitation and institutional evil, if you even want to call it that. The laws around corporate personhood have basically made it very easy for people to do things that harm others without taking responsibility. It's also tied into the birth fraud, the legal name fraud, the juristic person, the juridical person, the straw man, whatever you want to call it. To me, another way of describing this all is a golem. It's not a natural, organic, living entity. It's something that's given a semblance of life, a certain kind of you know, life form in a juristic or legal setting, and is used as a proxy, usually in ways to exploit, because that they're bypassing the natural person and dealing with a straw man or a golem or a corporate entity. So because we, in a legal sense, have this corporate identity as the all caps name, I'm not going to go into that right now. Anybody who doesn't know anything about it can learn all about it just by Googling a little bit. But to be able to say, listen, we are a party rallying against corporate personhood because we already have so many grassroots movements that are kind of like anti-corporatism, bringing power back to the local community, that I think that we could capture a lot of interest and support. I also think it's very, very radical because it challenges at the very heart like the most essential premise that all the corrupt aspects of organized political and economic expression springboard from, which is the presumption of the legitimacy of corporate personhood. So we're essentially coming in as a party questioning that presumption, saying maybe corporate personhood is not such a good idea. Maybe we need to revisit the laws that have established corporate personhood and rewrite them in a way that keeps people safe and keeps people accountable. So that's my first thing, is to have the common enemy that we put out a rallying call for all people to join us in fighting corporate personhood. Secondly, I think that we can bring people together around the idea of the sovereignty of communities. The power is in the people. Of course, what's implicit in that is the sovereignty of individuals, but I like to stay away from that in a broad public sense, broad political sense too, because right now the FBI is trying to demonize, you know, sovereign individuals as the #1 terroristic threat in the country. And again, I know we've had these discussions on the side, and it's absolutely ludicrous, but it goes to show you that these ideas of freedom and liberty are a very big threat to the powers that be as they exist, to the point where they're actually trying to, I mean, they're sending out memos to police offices and sheriff's departments, putting them on alert to watch out for people who claim to be what they call sovereign citizens. But sovereignty as a political concept means absolute freedom. Like you don't have anyone to answer to because you are your own governing entity. So it's really tied in with the whole kind of Emersonian notion of self-government, enlightened self-government. So to be able to say, you know, we want to see, we want to help to support community, the flourishing of community sovereignty, bringing the power back to the people. That would be the second point of this three-point platform. The final one would be the exercising of rights. That it's important for us, you know, what's implicit in that is that we know our rights, that we understand the concept of rights, so that we actually exercise rights with a view to preserving them for future generations. That ties into this whole impulse that we have of like for like the seventh generation, that what we do now is not simply for our own enjoyment and benefit in the moment, but it has a lasting, durable, and positive effect for the future. I feel like that's a platform that could really resonate, which is let's fight against corporate personhood. Let's bring sovereignty back to communities, community sovereignty, and let's exercise rights in order to preserve them for future generations. And I cede the floor at this point.
Well, I'll agree. I think that that is a most wonderful three-point platform. And the thing with the sovereign citizen, and that has concerned me for some time, as a social engineer, I've had that leveled against me because I mystery shop the police, and I'm authorized to do that, and they don't like that very much. And thank God that I have a law degree and I'm the real deal, because they will demonize you. And if we do not do this process exactly correctly to gain our legitimacy, it can be very ugly. Especially for the people that they see as the Hydra heads, you know, to harken back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it can be ugly. And the idea of attacking corporate America, the corporations, you're not demifying or vilifying an individual person, and everybody can agree with that. And yeah, I really think that those are three good platforms to address. And what do you think about that, George? I yield.
Well, I don't necessarily want to be one of the three speakers, so to speak. But just to make a brief comment, you know, the number of issues that humanity needs to take on and the American people need to take on is very large and growing. You know, we have domestic policy issues, we have foreign policy issues, and all those sorts of things. And I understand what Dave's coming from is, you know, what points do we really want to emphasize? But inevitably, we need to have a very well fleshed out and carefully worded, you know, set of positions on a very wide range of things. And I guess, you know, that will grow as we grow from a party that's with people or fielding candidates for local offices to the state level and the federal level. But I guess my point is you never know what kind of questions people are going to throw at you. So we'd better have the answers ready.
David, I have some papers that were just given to me tonight, so they may be of use. So I'm going to post it to the group. It's actually a link to a website. It comes from a woman in Germany, and it's numerous information on how to be a sovereign being and different information on the banking systems and some information about how this was known back in 2012, and they're basically stating that this is why the banks and government agencies are now in the panic because they know they're being found out. So hopefully, I'll send this out to the website and see what everybody thinks. I haven't gotten through it yet. I was just given it tonight. It's really, it's a lot of pages and a lot of documents to go through. So maybe this would be some help for the platform.
Carla, that's awesome. Yeah, I'd like to see those. It's very interesting too, because this is a thought that's out there that, you know, since the 2008 economic crisis, there's been this idea of kind of like, you know, we've crossed the point of no return, and that there may be architects who are guiding the social process at a very deliberate rate, understanding that if this all happened in the span of like 6 months, it could be chaotic and violent. But if you allow this discovery over the course of a couple of years, and it's kind of like this dawning of a personal understanding, and then you find the others, and then you have communities on Facebook all talking about it, to the point where, you know, you hit the 100th monkey effect, and now essentially everybody is putting in their vote of no confidence in the system, and then, you know, coming forth with a new system that's well fleshed out, offering it in place of the old one, or even as a temporary, you know, holdover until something new that we can. Oh, that's very intriguing to me. I do like to think that there are higher powers working with us, not necessarily human higher powers, but higher dimensional beings or higher beings in general, or even our higher selves, our archetypal selves that are guiding this wisdom process, because it is, you know, the stakes are so high, and we've got to do this right, you know, not just us, but all of humanity.
Yeah, David, I had one more thought on your three-pronged platform idea. I really like those, and I also think that the whole sustainability aspect, food, renewable energy, also very much needs to be at the forefront. Maybe that could be kind of under the heading of returning to sovereign communities. But I was also recently thinking about how to bring the whole corporate personhood, lose the name thing more to the forefront of Ubuntu, and I was going back into some of Kate of Gaia's writings and the Lose the Name website, and found the volunteer investigative journalism part of it, which I think some of you might be familiar with, but the idea is that having an email template of sorts designed for certain offices, like police offices, that explain it as, you know, hi, I'm an investigative journalist for this, and have you heard about what's going on with legal name fraud, blah, 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 blah. And create an email template for things like organic farms and people like that who are already out doing those things, saying, hey, we're from Ubuntu, have you heard about this? We're plugging in people just like you, like-minded, doing this, who have the same goals and all these things. And one thing I was thinking about was Workaway, which is kind of like woofing, but there are so many people, probably thousands in the US on there, and we can literally just have one person a week go to one state and just send an email to all of them on there. It'd only take an hour, but we could affect so many people that way. And if we had an email template for the organic farms and an email template for the people working on free energy, and just find all the little organizations doing all these things, and just have a couple people who are willing to spend a certain amount of time per week reaching out, sending email after email, and that would really bring the number of people involved way up. So I don't know what you guys think about that.
Noe, how's it going, brother? Welcome.
Hey, thank you. I had some issues connecting. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, man, we can hear you really good, man. I'm glad you could jump in with us.
Excellent. It's a pleasure to be here. You know,
Yep.
it's the first time attending, so I'm just gonna kind of catch up and see what you guys are trying to do. Yeah.
Awesome. Jess, can you tell us what the WOOF stands for?
Oh yeah, woofing. I don't know. The program that I participate in is Workaway, which is like a sister program, and I did it in Costa Rica, but Ben and I are actually thinking about doing a few in Hawaii. And there are just 84, you know, organic farms in Hawaii doing exactly this kind of thing, trying to build themselves up into sustainable communities, and they're just all over the place and looking for people to come and help. And if every single one of them knew about Ubuntu, we'd just expand like you have no idea.
Are these the organic farms that you're allowed to essentially go work on the farms and get, room and board?
Yeah, exactly. You get
Sure.
room and board, food right from the farm in exchange for a few hours of work on the farm per day or helping with other things that they need around the house or whatever. But
Cool. You had mentioned informing local law enforcement, so something that I've been working on over the last week here is I'm using my Pages app on my Mac to create flyers, and it looks like the words are backwards here, but this one is called The Power of the Notary Public. I was just sworn in a couple weeks back, and my brother Lucas is going to be sworn in the next day or two, hopefully. And we're going to get involved helping people settle conflict outside of courts through a process called a preventive adjudication. There's a whole process to it that we understand and know how to use. And this we hope will take some of the burden off of the court systems, which are very overburdened, and just generally help to remedy this perception of being an overly litigious society, because using a notary to help settle matters in advance is going to take a big burden off the court systems. We can also do civil marriages so that people don't have to get invested with the state through marriage licensing. And also we can do wills so that people can avoid probate, really getting a lot of important legal stuff done without having to involve attorneys in the legal society, which is awesome. This one, I took a recent, any fans of Judge Dale out there? Have you read any of the material of Judge Dale? He's a retired judge, and he's basically like coming out, telling all about the system, and how it works and what we should know about it. So since sovereignty really is kind of like this big watchword and under attack in a big way, I thought it'd be awesome to create a flyer written by a retired judge where he's discussing sovereignty, point by point, just to kind of get the word out there and to help combat any misperceptions. And then for everybody, but especially for police, and we're going to go visit the county sheriff sometime soon. We're trying to put together an assembly of respectable community leaders, some police officers to come with us, pastors, teachers, people involved with the community. But this one is called The Authority and Power of the Sheriff. This is going to play in a big way in helping people to understand the power that we have as communities directly related to community sovereignty, because the sheriff is the most powerful elected law enforcement officer in the country. He has more authority in his own county than the President of the United States for obvious reasons. It's a different jurisdiction. It's not federal jurisdiction. So basically, what the sheriff says goes in his county. So he can help stand against, he could actually pull together a posse and deputize people within the county to stand against federal intrusion. We saw something of that earlier in the year at the, with the Bureau of Land Management out at the Bundy Ranch, where they came in acting like they were in charge, and the people stood there and said, well, actually, no, you're outside of jurisdiction, and we know our rights, and we're going to stand, stand on our rights because we know the law. That's what they don't expect. So, we're getting educated on this stuff, but I'm going to continue putting together these flyers, informational flyers, just to kind of give people an idea to help inspire, you guys, if you want to also put together literature, and then we can all share them,
Dave, I'm wondering.
A little note on the.
No, I was just wondering why the video coming from you is black. Dave.
Oh, man, did I have my camera off this whole time? Let's see. That's strange. Did you guys see any of my flyers as I was showing them, or were you just hearing me?
Just hearing you.
I was just hearing you.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I don't know why that is, so, I might have a weird internet connection right now. It's typically good, but I can see what you mean. It's coming black, but I'm clicking my turn camera on and off button, and it doesn't seem to be making an effect. So yes, in addition to all that I just said, I was actually showing you these flyers, which you're not able to see, but I can send you links through our council page so that you guys can see the templates. I think George and Lucas were about to say something.
I was just going to say something on about notary republics. I've been watching the Gathering of the Tribes videos that Boris and Jim Heaven did, the guys from Completing Usufruct and that thing. And the more I learned from some of them, and that video is actually definitely worth checking out. It's got lots of different information on lots of different subjects, from becoming an American national to trust law to contracts to like some of the more spiritual sides of law. But one of the things it was talking about was how all of these courts that are in existence today are somewhat of military tribunals, and in that aspect, common law jurisdiction is very, very rare. So much so that there are very few positions left that actually hold in common law jurisdiction, notary public being one of them. So what you said before about being able to like lift the burden of some of these courts, not only would we be taking like the burden from some of these courts, but those courts almost in all these situations have a revenue stream developed from these cases. So it's essentially like taking loads off the course would essentially be starving the beast. You know, we'd be taking money out of their pockets because they wouldn't be getting all of these little military tribunals going on all the time, and we could, in a sense, cut off the supply of money coming into these court systems by lowering the load of cases being sent to them and just doing work outside of the courtrooms, because most of common law stuff, the more I find out about it and the differences between lawful and legal, is really common law, and what as far as I know, the prevalent jurisdiction today is maritime, admiralty, UCC stuff. So using some of the common law positions that are still left in existence, i.e. the notary public and the sheriffs, we can kind of move out of their jurisdiction without doing anything too major. So I pass the floor now.
I just have a question. So Ubuntu is this a political party that you guys are forming and then trying to see, you know, affect local municipalities, but is it like a political party that someone's going to run for on like a platform?
Yeah, it's definitely a party. This is specifically the request of Michael Tellinger. He's very emphatic about the fact that his wishes are that anybody who is serious about transforming their neighborhoods and their regions and the world should be getting involved locally in politically organizing an Ubuntu party. So he's expressed that. It's really kind of difficult to enforce, so I guess there'll be groups out there who will take from the principles and do their own thing, but he's wanting to work specifically with groups who are coming into alignment officially with, you know, headquarters essentially in South Africa. You know, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I'm naturally anti-authority and I'm naturally, you know, just do it my own way. But, you know, having read Michael's book and because I just believe in what he's doing, I have no personal ego issues with simply submitting to those wishes. I feel that they're legitimate. They work for me. I don't personally have a problem with it, and I think that it'll lend itself towards the harmonization of the effort globally if we are working in concert with one another according to the wishes of, you know, the main people involved, which are, you know, Michael and Lois and the people who are kind of naturally rising as leaders, and all of you guys, because, you know, we are Ubuntu Party USA Council of Elders. And he's specifically cited, because I asked him, I said, you know, why specifically is it important for you to have parties being formed? Well, there's some obvious reasons, but he also said that it would, you know, provide us with protection, which I didn't necessarily. I mean, I'm not a really deep political person. I don't know, Joseph, is there what was behind that? You know, him saying that there will be protection.
Well, it gives you a certain legitimacy in the process. You're not a rogue. You're not a terrorist. You're not a fly-by-night. You have set goals. You work within the system to change the system. Now, sometimes that's not necessarily good or bad, but to beat the man, you got to be the man. And it does that legitimacy, and I said that a lot. I said that on the radio show tonight. The legitimate presentation of viable alternatives is what makes the difference between Al Capone and FDR, because they were both out to do the same thing. The mob during the Depression started the first soup kitchens, but that still didn't keep them from going to prison. They did good works, but they were not legitimate. And the ability to discipline oneself and work within a set of rules and frameworks, it shows legitimacy and discipline and the civility, I guess. And that has a lot to do with it, because if you're not legitimate, then what they do to you is easily excusable and understandable. But it would be very hard, for instance, for the FBI or the NSA or Homeland Security to go kick in the door of the Democratic National Convention and say, freeze, we're taking you all in, because they're legitimate. Even with the Green Party and the Libertarian Party, that they don't do that. But if you've got some rogue ISIS type or Nation of Islam type person group, kick in the door. We don't care. They're not legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't followed the rules, and that's probably the best thing. Is people want something legitimate, and until you follow the rules, you're not legitimate, and that's just the way it is. And I yield. So.
Awesome, thank you. I know Sperry has been very patient, and I want to again welcome you, Sperry, being here with us. And maybe we can ask George to give a little intro to his friend Sperry and introduce this portion of our time together.
Did you hear that?
Hello there. Okay, I have my microphone off and was trying to talk like a silly person. So I guess I don't want to spend much time on background, but the way I got to know of Sperry and then got to know Sperry a little bit was through an academic consciousness researcher, Dr. Jeffrey Martin, whom I've been following for several years. And he was giving a presentation, a webinar, describing the results of his several years of research into the development of permanent non-symbolic experience, which is a fancy academic term for what is generally known in the world as awakening and enlightenment and many other such terms. And so at one point in the webinar, Dr. Martin mentioned that Sperry had been involved with a course/experiment that Dr. Martin has been conducting, and this involves a program whereby people actually can, and many do, gain that state of permanent non-symbolic experience in a matter of weeks, which was pretty remarkable, since traditionally the idea is you have to meditate for 20 or 30 years or maybe for a lifetime, and you may not ever reach your goal. So anyway, just what I heard from Dr. Martin about Sperry's work fascinated me, and I had to go look up the information that the internet provided about him, and then being a rather not a bashful person, I just picked up the, emailed him, and then we got on the phone. Within, I don't know, less than 24 hours after I watched Dr. Martin's webinar. So I relayed to Sperry what we were trying to accomplish as the Ubuntu movement, the Ubuntu party, and mentioned that it would be appropriate for us to have all the advantages that we can have, and anytime you get a diverse group of people together, obviously, we're not just alike. We have some differences of perspective, and differences of personality and so on. So what is the best way to bring us all together and to really develop this unity consciousness that Michael Tellinger talks about to a finely honed tool, and to make it as solid a foundation of everything we're doing as possible. So I think Sperry may have a significant part of the answer to that. And I want to emphasize, and I don't want to do the whole biography. If anyone is interested, then I would recommend definitely asking Sperry, because he knows his biography better than anyone else, obviously. But there are just a couple of things on the internet that I think are significant, because this is not something that he just started doing a few months ago or a couple of years. He's actually been involved with it since apparently the late 1980s, or even, you might say, throughout his life. But in terms of the specifically facilitating the development of group consciousness, and that's something we can ask about as to exactly what does that mean, because it's kind of it's a label, group consciousness, and if we've never really experienced what that means, it could be scary, or people might get a glorified idea of what it is. So I think we want to know precisely what we're talking about. But we discussed this in the meeting last week, and some questions came up. So I wanted to perhaps start out with those. And but before I do that, because I know some of the people on this call were not involved last week, so maybe I'll just ask Sperry to kind of describe what it is that he does and what the advantages to a group like ours would be, just briefly.
Sure. Thank you, George, and hello to all of you. Can you all hear me all right? So it's really very simple that we have a quality in our neurophysiological psychology. As an experiential scientist, I want to talk to you in very, very precise way. There's this mirror-like quality of conscious awareness, which, like a mirror, it receives and reflects what we're thinking and feeling and sensing and intuiting. And what's possible is to become conscious of this, or more aware of this quality in us, both individually and as a group. The reason for that is that ordinarily we structure our awareness with thoughts and activities, and when we're aware of awareness itself, then there's this spontaneous structuring of our thoughts and feelings and intuitions and sensations, and we're able to have access to what we're all, as if we're a single body, heart, and mind. There's nobody dominant at all. We're sharing a commonly sensed intelligence. And essentially, that's what unity consciousness is. By developing the habit of being aware of this mirror-like awakeness at the core of our consciousness, individually and indivisibly together, we're able to look at what we're feeling and sensing and thinking and intuiting as a group of individuals who are essentially incomparably unique every moment. Each of us is never the same way twice. We're constantly evolving. Our feelings and sensations and thoughts are undergoing constant development. But this awakeness, that's this mirror-like awakeness, which is based on these hundreds of millions of mirror neurons that we each have in our bodies, is is more constant, like a mirror. And in the same way that a mirror has no image, we look in the mirror and we can see what it is that we look like, what our facial expressions are. And in this case, we're able to look in the mirror of our combined awakeness and see what it's receiving and reflecting. And we're able to sense in a much more comprehensive way our combined intelligence, our collective insightfulness. You know, what really is making sense to us at a nonverbal level, which is, in some estimates, over 90% of our intelligence is nonverbal. And so this 3 to 5% of our so-called conscious mind is able to be experienced in an integrated way with our so-called cognitive unconscious, which we've made conscious. And we're in touch with our combined insightfulness and intelligence. And that is really the definition of unity consciousness. So I can say more about that. I've kind of gone over it a few times there. I wonder if that makes sense to everybody. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I'll just say that this subject of unity consciousness has really guided my creative process and my social involvement. We're coming up on the 8th year of Evolve Fest, which is a music festival that I help coordinate. And from its inception, one of the guiding principles was the idea of group transcendence, and how that could be experienced as the great oneness manifesting in our midst. It's not something that's necessarily promoted or talked about much, but I think it's implicit in all of our kind of material, and people just get the vibe. And I have been witness to and participated on multiple occasions over the years of highly resonant moments of highly coherent group transcendence, which I would describe as just like a breaking through to just a higher dimensional awareness of ourselves, of that kind of hyper intelligence that you were describing. And in fact, in 2012, 2 years ago, something happened. I think a lot of people, I was getting reports back from a lot of people. My voice changed after leaving. There was some kind of a, upgrade that I got, or download that I got, where I became aware driving the next day after I had gotten home, that I was self-aware that my voice was slightly different, and it was a positive change. But I definitely noticed it. I was also aware that my senses were highly, it was as if I had eaten some psilocybin mushrooms, but I didn't. And I typically don't do any of that stuff at these festivals since I'm hosting them. And it's not my party, but I want to create a safe environment for people coming there. But that was really interesting to feel visited by this manifestation of a greater oneness and actually receive some kind of a benefit from that experience. So I just wanted to share that with everybody, group transcendence.
Well, thank you, David. I'd like to suggest, as I've conducted thousands of groups over the last 30 years in this, that if we just focus right now on the quality and presence of our awareness as an energy, it's an energetic, we're aware that we're aware. That's what the meaning of Homo sapiens is. And if without referring to the past or to the future at all, just being completely aware of this presence of conscious awareness, we can shift into unity consciousness at the very beginnings of it within 5 or 10 minutes. getting a typing here without a. Okay. There's still typing going on.
Sorry.
Well, the microphone can be turned off if one wants to type. So it's just that normally we give our attention almost exclusively to what we think, what we're doing, how we feel, or what we're sensing, or what somebody else is thinking or doing, or and as a result, we're giving all of our attention to the content. What is constantly changing. And we structure our attention with that content by always focusing our attention on our mind, what we think about something, what we think we're doing, who we think we are, what we think we're accomplishing. And if instead we shift our attention right now to just the quality and presence of our awareness and in our own way silently describe to ourselves our awareness. What is this awareness that makes us able to pay attention together here as a group? And we shift, by doing this, we shift out of our heads into our direct experience. And then, as we enter into our combined sensory, emotional, mental, intuitive sense of experiencing who and what we are together, and we really become grounded here, become very conscious of sharing this sensitivity. Now, when we talk about the content, it has this space, this energetic space of just our combined awareness that is fully embodied, and we're able to intuitively understand what we're talking about together in a very effortless way. It becomes very easy to make decisions together and to reach consensus rapidly about very complicated issues. Whereas if we're not doing this, we're each taking turns pointing at thoughts and concepts and meanings about those thoughts and concepts, and everybody has a different concept and a different interpretation and wants to add what they have to say or how they see it from their perspective. And enormous amounts of time are wasted, and we go around and around in circles, and we don't really accomplish very much. Whereas I think Michael Tellinger, who I feel is a very inspiring person, who is bringing people to a shared sensitivity, a shared understanding, by how he points our attention to the facts and what it is that we deeply feel and sense as human beings. Well, we can all learn to do what Michael does, and that's very simple to learn how to do it. What I've recommended to George, if we each agree, or whoever would like to agree, to come together for 3 different gatherings, specifically to practice this exercise for about 90 minutes to 2 hours each, it becomes very natural, and then a group of people like yourselves can easily be grounded in our bodies and our hearts, and then our mind doesn't have to captivate and control our attention. And we can share a mutual understanding, and virtually effortlessly, meetings become really a joy and very relaxing. And so if a small group of people, a small group of you were to learn to do this, you would then be able to train yourselves to continue to exercise in this way. And simply, all you're really doing is learning to be aware of awareness, both individually and together. So instead of only paying attention to what's being said, you're also paying attention to the quality and presence of your awareness. And that's really the simplicity of it.
Is this akin to the Buddhist concept to explain how it differs?
Well, the Buddhist, not that I'm not a Buddhist, but the Buddhist will say that Buddhism is just is a word that points to the fact that a group of people have taken a very scientific approach to consciousness, experiential consciousness, for the last 2,500 years of written history. And so Buddhism is not really a religion as much as it is an experimental exploration. Even the Dalai Lama has said if somebody came along and demonstrated experientially that something made more sense, and everybody could experience that felt more true, then Buddhism would change and adapt. It's not about a set of ideas that are being implemented by a hierarchy. It's really an open source, very much like Ubuntu is structured, where everybody really can come to a commonly sensed intelligence, essentially an empathic intelligence, which makes sense to everybody, not just to whoever's promulgating their ideas. Did that answer your question?
Actually, yes, actually it did, and in a very good way. And I would follow that up with how can groups that are earnestly seeking this that you offer, that you can teach, and that I think we aspire to, how can we avoid being entrained by dominant personalities that, you know, in 12-step groups, it's principles before personalities. How could a group avoid the personalities to get to the principles, as you explained? Can you elucidate on that?
Yes, this exercise, as a way of training ourselves to accomplish what you're saying, has evolved through trial and error over 30 years with thousands of people internationally. So there are guidelines that work very effectively, that everybody speaks according to those guidelines. For example, no one is able to dominate to begin with, because the structure is that we each take a turn to speak only one sentence, and we go around the group and we don't speak again until everyone has spoken. And we partner off and do various things. We agree to not refer to the past, even if it's a moment ago, or to the future in anticipation, even if it could happen in the next moment. So we stay very present in the moment, and we describe our experience of sharing what it is that we're sensing together. So it's not about my idea or my, my egocentric position. It's about we're training ourselves to talk and describe what it is that we're sensing with our partner or with the group as a whole. Now, when we begin the exercise, of course, it's easiest to talk about what we are individually sensing. But after about 15 minutes, we're all beginning to sense and feel together interpersonally and as a group. And so it becomes very natural to begin to speak about what we're sensing together. And it's very exciting and interesting and feels wonderful. It's like you know what it feels like when you feel that someone or a group is really listening to you and they really care about what you're saying? Well, that starts to happen very quickly in this exercise. And so it feels very nourishing to do the exercise. and everybody just absolutely loves it and has such a great time. It's really fun and very fascinating.
That's really awesome. Thank you for laying out conceptually to us how this all works. I think that's something that we can all benefit from and that we can all relate to some degree. We're rounding up and we're actually just putting a call out to all Ubuntu coordinators worldwide for Memorial Day 2015. The dates, I just can't think off the top of my head, but we're doing an Ubuntu Fest north of Philadelphia. And Sperry, are you from the Northeast?
Originally, I'm in Berkeley, California at the moment, but I
Gotcha.
come from southwestern Connecticut.
Okay. So yeah, maybe we'll get in touch and maybe get you out to Ubuntu Fest to do a workshop and offer that for a larger group setting because we like to do a lot of workshops at these guys. This will actually be our first Ubuntu Fest. It won't be as elaborate as the music festival we do, Evolve Fest, but we want to create a venue for global coordinators to all get together in person once a year. So thank you for taking time to to explain to us your passion and your gift to humanity. Thank you.
I'd like to just add that I've pretty much done this, found a way through trial and error over these last 30 years to basically teaching this exercise to thousands of people internationally so that I could learn how something so simple could influence the character of human civilization, where ultimately we can share a common sense in a fully embodied way together and access our combined intelligence as a species without anybody being paid and it not depending upon any one individual. So, and essentially, I've been kind of create my own Ubuntu movement, if you will, for the last 60 years since I had a near-death experience at the age of 4 where I existed without a body, heart, or mind. And a lot of people that have had near-death experiences are of the same sentiment, that we understand that we're all indivisible, and there really is only one of us, really. There's only one life. And if we can just be aware of that indivisibility of our being that we all share, that is constant, and how at the level of form we're always incomparably unique every moment. And instead of being identified with what is changing, we can rest and feel what is unchanging in us, this mirror-like awakeness, this mirror-like conscious awareness, and we can share that co-creatively and co-consciously together, and we can actually integrate our minds and our hearts and our visions and our ideas, and really that's going to attract people to this type of a movement, an awakening movement, which I feel that Michael is telling us is so turned on and lit up about. So thank you all very much.
Sure. There's one other thing I'd like to mention about this is this whole idea of coming together as this body of divinity. Certainly in the Gnostic traditions and in some places in the New Testament, it speaks very specifically about the mystical body of Christ being the humanity that is functioning at the level of a Christ consciousness. And Christ is spoken of as kind of like the corporate head of this body that is constituted of individuals, but is kind of all functioning from the same base level, high level awareness. I intuitively know that this is our evolutionary destiny. It's very specific and not to be confused with like the hive mind or the Borg mentality or the insect mentality where everybody's essentially a drone, and there's not individual, flourish and color, but everybody knows their program, and it's all regimented. We have the ability to inform the process on an individual level. And this is actually, Joe Sapp, I know you're a big Thomas Troward fan. So Thomas Troward got into like these 5 stages of evolution, going from lower forms of density, and let's say, rock consciousness to plant consciousness to animal consciousness, being guided by instinct, which is profoundly mysterious. And then Sperry, as you referenced earlier, the Homo sapiens sapiens, that we are aware, puts us in a unique category. So it seems that we are right at this crux where the reins for self-articulation and where we want our evolution to go, that those reins are being given over to us, that we can determine, how big, how wide, how beautiful, how wonderful that we wish to be. And it's not going to be every man for himself. Although I think that ego individuality will always play a part, because it has to do with the way that complex diversity can inform the overall process with the best possible outcome, but that essentially that we are all coming together to be the body of God. And that's kind of a message I've tried to put out to people, because I see a lot of people in the enlightened community it's very fragmented, and everybody, should have a sense of their own personal mission, but also a sense of like, well, how do I plug my mission into the larger mission, finding the others, working together as a team. So kind of my message to the enlightened community has been, instead of everybody doing your own thing, let's all come together and be the body of God. So I really feel like everything you're talking about plays into this kind of motif that I've always kind of intuitively felt about our evolutionary destiny, as coming into concert, harmonized, where united we are obviously greater as a singularity, greater than the sum of our parts constituently.
Well, if you like, I can, I brought together neuroscientific laboratories from multiple countries to actually monitor the autonomic and central nervous system of people thousands of miles apart, where one person would, with a 1,000,000 candle power strobe for a duration of 3 microseconds, and you can see that the other people are affected. Now, there's a whole variety of experiments that have been demonstrated this, that many different researchers from independent laboratories have found evidence over and over again. It's very robust that we're not actually separated by space or even time. That observation, this mirror-like awakeness, which is organizing all of our senses and thoughts and feelings into an integrated whole, is actually doing it between and among us, even when we're spread out around the planet, and that nature has really designed us to be able to share a common consciousness as a species. And all we need to do is really to start paying attention to to attention itself, and we can enter into this indivisible consciousness that is causing everything that we know ourselves to be at the manifest level to be incomparably, infinitely unique every single instant passing. I mean, we are totally surprising and unforeseeable. We're not monotonous. And when we get in touch with this being fresh and new every moment, it's a really delightful, very healthy way of living. And then we have this constant of this mirror reflective consciousness that we can all share. And when we share it, we feel it's an unconditional state of loving. It's like we are one indivisible life. The whole universe feels indivisible to us. And we readily understand what each other is feeling and sensing very empathically. And it's very much like, as you're saying, Dave, It's like we're all one body. We all, uh, there are those religious statements about we're all part of the body of Christ, or body, that's what Christ consciousness is about. And different religions have different ways of pointing to this, but basically this is perennial wisdom, that we are able to access a higher, more integrated way of being together.
I just want to say that all that definitely resonates with me. I believe in a cosmic consciousness, and there's one mind and many bodies, and we all have our individuality, but I definitely feel the connection, with everything and with the universe. And I had a transformational experience at a Volfest, which had led me on the path that I am now. Um, and that path has led me here. I briefly saw Ubuntu. I saw Dave briefly doing it, but then really feeling internally how I felt about it, it really resonated with me, and I feel that I needed to connect with all of you, even though I didn't know you personally. I had never seen you before. Um, but it was my drive. I felt something inside to say I need to connect with these people, and I believe in this movement. And I think this is great that we have Google Hangout and we can actually see each other, even though everyone is really far apart. We're here right now live, and I think we're at the frontier of evolution. How this meeting has never happened before, and I'm glad to be in the conversation and see where we can take it. And I think it has a lot of potential and possibility, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Glad you're here, Noe. Thank you, brother. Pulling your mic closer too, bro.
So
I found something. Physics also has a definition for what you talk about, Sperry. The Bose-Einstein condensate. It's a rare state or phase of matter in which a large percentage of bosons collapse into their lowest quantum state, allowing quantum effects to be observed on a macro scale. To the perfect alignment and this total optimal coherence, and then there's like this macroscopic effect when a large percentage of these bosons collapse into their lowest quantum state. I thought that was really cool. You want to look into that?
Yes, and things have progressed since that has become a center stage, to talk about the fact that every particle in the universe is instantaneously correlated with every other particle, that all particles are so-called entangled. And I've been working with the physics group here in Berkeley that was started 40 years ago. The two founders are friends of mine, on an experiment that I've been developing over the last 30 years to demonstrate that we can communicate instantaneously across space and time, and using Josephson junctions, which are supercooled measuring devices. So with this communication technologies, we ought to be able to communicate with other civilizations in our galaxy and in the universe instantaneously.
Yeah, I think something's happening. Certainly, people who are crossing over into some of these dimensions through like the tea experience or ayahuasca, in some cases, some other substances. But it definitely seems like from the work that Rick Strassman has done in a clinical setting, it's clear that certain threshold of dosage, very lucid and sober higher with four-dimensional geometry and physics that are inarticulable when they come back 15 minutes later, able to describe their journeys. But they make contact with higher dimensions. They're in the presence of highly complex landscapes and celestial cities. You can, just the nature of mind and how there's kind of actually science to making contact with other dimensions. Like if you ingest the right substance, you will go there.
Well, there's a lot of this kind of fringe or pioneering areas. Of course, there can be a lot of, sort of dead ends, like, and but it's worth exploring these various things. And I know that there are many reports that certain substances like DMT, for example, which is the active ingredient in ayahuasca, people often have contact with interdimensional beings and so forth. But there's really the question of whether there's really, as many have said for thousands of years, it's really as though each one of us is localizing the non-local whole. Each of us is the universe. As Carl Jung said, in the process of maturation, the individual realizes that they are indivisible from everyone and everything. And when more of us realize this, then we have a chance of having a civilization on this planet.
So I've enjoyed listening to this discussion, and I listened to most of it. I had to bail out because I was having technical difficulties, and I came back. Eventually found my way back after several false starts. But my intent here, is along the lines of what Sperry was mentioning earlier, that we can actually participate in this. We can try it out. We can see if it enhances what we're doing as a group, and I believe it certainly. I would make the jump to say I believe it will. Okay, it certainly has the potential to, and I think probably everybody here can see that. So we don't need to do it right here, right now necessarily, but I'd like to find out who's interested in doing it, and what kind of schedule we could set up to participate in it. It doesn't belong in this slot. This is the slot for the council meetings. Probably doesn't belong in the Tuesday night slot, which is the group meditations. But we could find another slot, where we could all be available for 3 90-minute to 2-hour sessions. So can we take that offline and do it, maybe on the Facebook group?
Yeah, let's talk about it on the Council of Elders page, and maybe can I invite you to that group, Sperry, if for no other reason than just to help coordinate that event? And you're certainly welcome to to be in the group as a active member to the extent that you're interested, or to remove yourself at any time if you so wish.
Well, I don't know the particulars of that group, or when you would be meeting, but yes, I would like to participate. Would love to determine when it is that you would, you may want to all talk amongst yourselves and decide, but as I've recommended through George, that it would be good to have at least 3 exercise times to get together for 90 minutes to 2 hours, specifically only to focus on exercising so that you all can essentially do this and become trainers of this and continue to train yourselves. And that's one of the reasons that George had me come today, was to be able to present that potential and that offering. So what specifically are you inviting me to, please?
This is a Facebook group page. As a matter of fact, if you go on your Facebook, I just sent you a friend request, so you can accept my friend request if you want to. But the group I want to invite you to, which I'll be able to once we're connected as friends, is a closed group on Facebook called the Ubuntu Party USA Council of Elders. It's a very loose and informal group. There's really no responsibility for you, for instance. Really, the people who are connecting on there, and we've got about 130 or 40 people. These are people who are wanting to plug in to be Ubuntu coordinators at some level, whether it's in their town, their county, their state, or otherwise. As I said, it's very loosely organized. You know, really the most organized thing that we have out of it so far are these regular Thursday night meetings. So if you want to be involved, even just to be aware and chime in now and then, I invite you to do so, but there's nothing obligatory, or there's no expectations upon you to be involved any more than just an observer and casual participant, unless you express a desire to be more than that.
Okay, so you're able to meet audiovisually or auditorily through Facebook? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, we formally get together at this Google Hangout every Thursday, so this would be the audio-visual meetup, and we invite anybody in the group who wants to be a part of it. There's many people who just listen in, who don't come on the video conference. There's many people who will listen afterwards, because all these Hangouts are automatically converted into YouTube videos. So anybody can then watch the videos at a later time. But the group itself is simply a Facebook group, which is just basically a think tank where we share ideas and where we organize our next step. And we just invite, you know, everybody to participate in that group process, because we really want to be open to that experiment of this, you know, group coherence. Without, you know, where everybody's participant-driven rather than leader-driven.
Well, I haven't received your email for some reason, but I think I've already liked or become a member of the Ubuntu Party USA on Facebook.
That's the fan page. I think what we can do is George, since he's an admin on the Council of Elders group page, because we're represented as a fan page, which people can just go and like. That's kind of like our public face. Our Council of Elders group is not public. It's closed to the people who are functionally involved with getting Ubuntu activated within their own communities. So I think George is an admin, and as a friend of yours, can go ahead and add you to that group. And I'm looking at facebook.com/SperryLicious. Would that be you?
That's me.
Okay. Well, I'm having some weird computer stuff. You should be seeing a friend request at some point, because I did send that to you. If not now, sometime soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I sent you one also, Sperry. So one way or another, we'll get you connected to the group. But yeah, my proposal is just that we start a thread in the group where everybody gets to chime in as to what times would work for them, and, you know, the people who are interested, and we'll work out when we can do it.
Sperry, do you want to try refreshing your Facebook page? I don't know if that might help. If once refreshed, you might see my invite or my
oh, I see. I was looking for the invite as an email, but I don't have my Facebook open here. I can do that.
Okay. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah, so I understand you want to move on here, and I don't need to talk anymore. It's in fact, you know, this is all conceptual, you know, stuff, and really what I'm really offering is to get into the experiential rather than into the conceptual and give a ground for the conceptual so that it can it has some place that it can belong in all of us.
That's great. That's fine. We usually wrap up around now. I don't think we've really gone past midnight, so I want to respect everybody's time. But I do want to open up the floor. Hey, Jared, man, I just got your message, dude. I'm so sorry. I'm glad you're here with us at this. He types in, "Yo, how you doing, brother? Good to see you." But yeah, I just want to open up the floor for these next 5 minutes or whatever. We are reliant upon the intuitions of everybody who's participating. Everybody has a piece. So we just want to put this coherent picture together. So please, any thoughts, insights, what you're for about our meeting tonight, what we would call a forness response, which is your positive, like, I really like this idea, your wishes, maybe you have some good input, even of a constructive, critical nature. So that would be your wish for response, like, I wish for this. So please, would love to hear anybody, what you're for and what you're wishing for.
Thank you, Sperry. Dave, I want to say your idea about the political platform, I like the idea itself, but it's the next thing we need to be thinking about, and I mean, the more input into it as a group, that sort of everybody can put in, like, putting on our thinking caps and thinking about it individually, and then getting together and discussing it. We can put something together fairly quickly, I think. But the logistics of actually registering the party is a whole other, ball of wax, and I'm glad that Jessie's working on it. I know Joey already knows a lot about it and can help us move forward with it. So, yeah, that's cool stuff. I'm glad we discussed it. Thank you.
I want to say it was my first time attending, so I was kind of seeing, where you guys were at and everything. I really liked Sperry's idea. Really resonated and seeming like we're set up an atmosphere to channel our cosmic consciousness, instead of sometimes, especially on online discussions like this, where you can get distracted talking about little side ideas, and then the time went by. I can't believe, honestly, that it's midnight. It kind of flew by for me. But yeah, so I like what you guys are doing, and I definitely want to listen more and see how I can help, at least in my area. I'm in New York. I don't know where everyone else is at.
Cool, Noe. Can I add you to our group?
Shit, please do. I'd love to, like I said, participate in however way I can.
Awesome, brother. Thank you, man. We need good people like you to get involved, and a lot of awesome people. I know you're plugging to a lot of great groups in New York City and the New York metro area. So yeah, man, just represent and let people know about Ubuntu and how they can get involved and, like, plug right in, because we're just wanting to plug people in and, like, activate,
Excellent. Yeah, I hear you.
All right, brother, I'm sending you an invite right now. Actually, I added you to the group, so now you're in Ubuntu Party USA Council of Elders.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Ubuntu activation, right on, Jared. Love it. Okay, well, why don't we just close out our time together with a short group meditation. Let's just take 3 deep breaths together, in through the nose, breathing in. Feel ourselves connecting as we breathe in. Breathing as one, we become one, breathing in. Bringing your awareness to your heart center, feel your heart open and expand to both give and to receive love that is here right now, present to inform your process, to hold you in loving, cherished adoration for all of the worth and value that you bring into this process. Feel the love that you're surrounded by. I receive, and we all receive, the love that we're feeling from one another. We send our love to our spheres. We expand this sphere of compassion like a bubble into our Ubuntu group that could not be here tonight, including them. So breathe in. Expanding that sphere to cover all of the globe and all the peoples of the earth in the circle of compassion and love that we hold, realizing that we're all connected by beautiful tendrils of consciousness in a beautiful organic way, and connected to the placenta of our planetary mother, breathing in. As we exhale, we just allow the circle of compassion to expand infinitely in all directions, to embrace all beings, everywhere, in the full embrace of our loving intentions and unconditional positive regard. And with an affirmation, we say yes, bless, all beings bless. I thank you guys. Thank you for being here tonight, and we'll see you next Thursday. Much love to you all.
It was a pleasure. Much love. See you. Peace.
Peace.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, visionaries.
Yeah. Love with you all. So wonderful to be with all of you. Very best.
Hey man, we got something good going on. Don't fuck it up. I'm saying that for me too.